I was pondering today about how when you are making decisions out of pressure and not intuition, you're going to naturally have the proclivity to screw up your life in ways unimaginable. And I was very much, and still very much am, a fan of Star Wars. And I was thinking about the mythology of Star Wars and the psychology and the philosophy of Star Wars as well. And I was thinking about how it really was the Jedi's downfall to make decisions out of this sharpness and this sharp reaction based protocol rather than intuitive protocol. They made decisions out of the pressure to be concealing the dark side rather, or destroying the dark side, than to actually just live. I mean, all that the Jedi really had to do in order for Darth Vader to not be who Darth Vader ended up becoming was to treat Anakin like the chosen one that he was and is, and not fall victim to the arrogance of their own spiritual superiority complexes, I suppose you could say, because I think this is what happens a lot with Pharisees or religious people or hyper atheists or hyper new age people. These are all people that are ending up with the feeling of worshiping themselves rather than actually making a difference in the world intuitively like they're supposed to, because that's what a Jedi does, right? A Jedi is supposed to be a protector and, serving justice and serving the Force and being one with the Force. And you can think about the Force as God's will, or you can think about it as the Tao, whatever kind of name you want to put it. It doesn't change the fact that it is the will of God at the end of the day. That force of absolute goodness in the world, it is God, and it is His will. And we can either go with the current or we can try to rebel against it. We don't really have another option. And when you are on the path to becoming something more, to something deeply spiritual, if you're interested in dreams and you're interested in astrology or numerology or divination or all these things, I will not tell you that to practice this is evil, but I will not also say that it is good to practice some of these things. Now, dreams, I don't think there's any problem with dreams. Dreams are simply a fact of existence. And we talked a little bit about this in the Regal Change Academy tonight, reading the book of Daniel. And of course, dreams are what they are. It is simply a fact that dreams exist. Dreams are where the birthplace to God's vision is really born. I mean, there's nothing else to it. If God created the heavens and the earth in the beginning, okay, that means that ultimately we were part of something more. We were part of, and still are part of, something more. This is how it's been since the beginning, right? This is how it's been since the beginning, and we have forgotten that knowing quality of life. We've forgotten how to know God. We've forgotten how to know God's will. We've forgotten how to know our intuition, how to know our instincts. Instead, we've let the incremental lies of the society beat us into a pulp and push our face into the ground and just let society and people stab us in the back and conjure these smear campaigns, or let gang stalkers do what they do. And no, don't get me wrong, gang stalking is a serious phenomenon, and it's definitely not something to just kind of wave idly by, because it is a serious thing. And if you are a targeted individual, there's definitely something to be said for that. But you can be like a Jedi in this world. You can. And I don't see anything wrong with you using this as a metaphor to act in accordance to God's will. Because the thing is that unless you have the nerve to stand in the truth and in spirit, there truly is not going to be anything that is going to be beneficial for you in the long term, that is going to actually help you in your pursuit of peace and your claiming of peace, rather than just the pursuit of happiness. Happiness is great, but it's a byproduct of living in the Spirit of God and living in spirit and truth. Because this is something that many people are failing to understand in this day and age, that we can live righteously. We can live in accordance to the laws, statutes, and commandments of God. And we can do these things. We can. We don't have to play the system. Okay, and the system that, there's a lot of different kinds of systems out there. So what kind of system am I referring to? Well, the institutions, the education system, specifically the public education system, because YouTube has more opportunities for education. YouTube is by far the best platform for learning. And look, I know that there's a lot of stuff going on with YouTube, and I know YouTube and I have our sweet little moments, but I will say that YouTube is the best platform out there in my opinion. And X is going to be the second best, simply because of the diversity of ideas available that are not there on like Instagram or other places. Because the great thing about YouTube is that you can choose what you get to look at for the most part. Of course, there's going to be an algorithm, and hopefully you can, if you're making videos and you're a creator, you can get as many different algorithmic probability increases as possible. But at the end of the day, I genuinely believe that if God wants a message to go out, that message will go out. Okay, there's nothing that can stop God's will. Anything that God wants to have happen in this world will happen. And it's up to you to decide whether or not you are actually operating in your intuition, or you're letting these, pressure cookers push you into doing something. Like fiat currency is a big thing when it comes to this kind of thing. And something that I've realized about fiat currency recently, it's that you genuinely will not be able to, quote unquote, escape the matrix if you still rely on the fiat system to some degree. Because to play in that system without knowing you're playing in that system, now if you know you're playing in that system of fiat, then it's okay, like you can still escape the matrix. But if you're playing that system but you're not knowing you're playing that system, yeah, you're not really free as much as you would like to maybe believe you are. And that's a lot of this, it's unlearning what we've learned. And I've mentioned this a lot recently. It's that if you have a high truth preference and you have a high pain tolerance, you're more likely to escape the quote unquote matrix, or the simulation, as I call it, and to be with the simulator. Now, if you want to be with the simulator and not in the simulation, then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to allow yourself to live in an intuitive and instinctual state, because that's the way that you were made. Stop thinking so much. Thinking will literally degrade you as a person if you're not careful. There's nothing wrong with learning how to think critically. In fact, learning how to think is very important. But to think too much it's almost like you have to learn how to think so that you know how to not think. And that's a weird paradox. But again, once you get to the paradoxes of life, you get closer to the truth. And when you get closer to the truth, you're able to be more free, and you're able to live more in accordance to that which is true, just, merciful, and good. And really lately, I've been really aiming to develop my relationship with God even more so than it already is and has been, because I've felt not a distance from God, but it's almost like he is kind of letting me do my own thing right now because I'm just operating in the Spirit. I'm just operating in the truth right now. And I don't really feel separated at all, but at the same time, there are just, I mean, every day kind of feels like a week lately. Is anybody else feeling that? Maybe it is the time change. I don't know, but it seems like there will be moments throughout the day where I feel God so intensely. And then other times it's very much so just like God's with me, but I don't really hear his voice really, or he's not really saying much to me, or he's not really guiding me with the Holy Spirit too much. And it's because I'm already living it. Like I'm already living the truth and I'm letting die what is false. I'm not actually just, I'm not trying to be anything anymore. I'm just being. And that's a real shifter in your mindset. And I think I'm getting to the point now to where I have developed this godlike mindset to the degree that it is a work of art, but it's also still a work in progress. Like this is very important to think about and to talk about, because many people believe that they're going to be, like, in order to be a Jedi, let's say, like in order to be a Jedi, you have to control the Force. It's not the way the Force works. I mean, look at Yoda, right? One of Yoda's greatest teachings to Luke Skywalker, for example, right? He's like, size, you think that like size matters not. And he lifts up the ship, because Luke was trying to get the ship out of the swamp. And Luke is like, no, I can't, it's too heavy. And Yoda says, judge me by my size, do you? Something like that, right? And he lifts up the ship out of the swamp, Yoda does. And Luke is like, how did you do that? Like, I can't believe it. And then Yoda says, that is why you fail. It's like, oh my gosh. Like that's exactly it right there. Like, if you can't really not even believe, but know that this world is real, it's fake, like, but there's a lot of fakeness to it, but the beauty of God is everywhere. All you have to do is observe. All you have to do is just take a look around and appreciate what life has to offer. Everything will be provided unto you. You just have to have faith and just know that God will do so. Like, think about what Jesus says on the Mount, right? It was on the Sermon of the Mount, I believe, yeah? Where he says, it's like Matthew 6, where he says something like, look at the birds, and how your Father in heaven feeds them. Surely you're like just as valuable, if not more valuable, right? You don't think God's going to provide for you? And what's crazy is that's such a comforting and encouraging teaching that Jesus gives us. I mean, how truly amazing is that? That there's going to be, like, our Father in heaven. He's going to care for us. He's going to provide for us. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but he's going to care for us. He's going to provide for us. And all we have to do is have faith, believe. If you can't believe it, well, then that's your problem. That's your issue right there. So I hope that this video was useful and insightful for you. It's a little different from the videos that I usually do, as insofar as the topic is concerned, because sometimes I like to let my geekness out, or my nerdiness out. And the reason that I like that nerdiness and that geeky quality of myself is because it really has helped me. Like, studying Star Wars, if you study the philosophy and the psychology of Star Wars, your mind changes. You definitely have a different perspective of life. It's kind of like Lord of the Rings as well. If you study the psychology and philosophy of Lord of the Rings, your world shift and your worldview is going to shift, rather. And there's nothing more valuable sometimes in this life than to just have that simple appreciation for being, have that simple appreciation for being in the fight. You know, we get to be in the fight. We get to be on the front lines with spiritual warfare. We get to be one with the force, so to speak, right? The force of God. We get to be one with God's will. How amazing is that? I mean, would you want it any, like, why would you want to do your own thing? Like, you think you know more than God? Like, it's so arrogant, and it's just so crazy, because I don't even believe in absolute evil. A lot of people have asked me if I, if evil exists, and it's like, well, yeah, of course evil exists. Well, then why does God not do anything about evil? It's like, well, would you want to live in a world where you're forced to do good and you don't even know it? I mean, it's very much more like, how do I say this? There's some kind of true morality and lessons spiritually to be learned and to be had when you're able to grow, when you're able to actually take what the free will has given us, and you could do the wrong thing or the evil I mean, it's not even really wrong, I guess, technically. Like, it's more just, you could do evil for sure. You could be serving iniquities, and you could be serving yourself and worshiping yourself. Just like Nebuchadnezzar in the book of Daniel, where he makes the huge golden statue of himself, basically, so that people can worship him. This is the way things go, where you worship yourself and you force other people to worship you, or you throw them in the fire, and there's a bunch of other stuff that goes on, of course, but you get the point here of what I'm saying. It's that there's something truly miraculous to be seen when you actually lean into your intuition and your instincts, and you have that high truth preference. You have that high truth, well, not even tolerance, high pain tolerance. When you have the high pain tolerance and you have the high truth preference, everything else really falls into place, because your conscientiousness of life is going to naturally increase and your neuroticness of life is going to naturally decrease. And so that's automatically going to put you on a scale where you're able to see clearly. You're not interrupting people all the time, or you're not scared, you're not panicking, you're not trying to be this or trying to be that. You're just being, and you're just able to chill out. There's nothing more valuable than being able to just chill sometimes. I truly do believe that. Well, I hope that this video was useful and insightful. I hope everybody stays blessed. If you want to be having that godlike mindset and mentality, you want to be a Jedi, because dude, or dudette, whoever's watching this, I suppose. I presume most women will maybe not watch this just because of the context and the content itself, but overall, if you are watching this and you're interested in developing that godlike mindset, your physical, emotional, and spiritual health and wellness. That's what I meant to say, not hellness. I guess you could be developing your hellness to some degree. It's very late, and I'm mixing my words up a little bit, but the hellness, it is kind of possible that you would experience hellness for sure, but a hellishness rather. But you'll get to that place where, like the tree of life, the roots that grow to hell will also have branches that reach to heaven. So there is that with my Godlike Master Initiation program, as well as the Regal Change Academy as well. We do have the Regal Change Academy for free at this time. You can join for free. However, you won't be able to join on the calls or the classes, but you'll have access to the community itself and to be able to communicate with other people on the main community page there. So I hope everybody stays blessed. Peace. Until next time.